Welcome to part 4 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. In this video we're going to be looking at two sons of Japheth, Tubal and Meshech. Let's start with a few Bible verses that speak about Tubal and Meshech. Okay, so this one from Ezekiel, it says, "There is Meshech, Tubal, and all their multitude." Okay, so we see Meshech mentioned alongside Tubal, and we can see a few other verses that I've got here that we have this connection with Tubal and Meshech. So it seems likely that we should expect to find Tubal and Meshech living close to one another, and also maybe entering into an alliance together. Okay, let's start with the book of Jubilees to see the territory for Tubal and Meshech. It says, "And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion, in the midst of the tongue which approacheth towards the border of the portion of Lud, to the second tongue, to the region beyond the second tongue, unto the third tongue. And for Meshech came forth the sixth portion, all the region beyond the third tongue, till it approached the east of Gudea." So the important bit of information we get here is for Meshech, how it says that his land approaches to the east of Gudea, and it tells us here that it's connecting this with Cadiz, and Cadiz is in southern Spain. So let me show you how I've interpreted the two sons of Japheth. Okay, so I've got Tubal, the land of Tubal stretching from Spain to Italy, and I've got Meshech here in eastern Spain, because roughly in this region here is where Cadiz is. So it says that the land of Meshech reaches unto Gadea or Cadiz. Now I've seen quite a few scholars that have studied Jubilees. They agree with what I got here for Meshech, but there is a bit of debate about Tubal. But I want to show you some sources to support the way I have it laid out here, I think. So let's go to the book of Jasher, because it tells us a story of Tubal and Kittim. And you see I've got Kittim here in the country we know as Italy. Now Kittim is a son of Japheth. Okay, let's go to this. We're just going to read this first part of the book of Jasher. It says, "And in those days, in the 91st year of the life of Abram, the children of Kittim made war with the children of Tubal. For when the Lord had scattered the sons of men upon the face of the earth, the children of Kittim went and embodied themselves in the plain of Canopia, and they built themselves cities there, and dwelt by the river Tibru." Okay, so that's why I got Kittim here, because the book of Jasher is saying that the Kittim dwelt in Italy. Now let's read about Tubal. "And the children of Tubal dwelt in Tuscana," I think they're supposed to be Tuscany, "and their boundaries reached the river Tibru. And the children of Tubal built a city in Tuscanan, and they called the name Sabina, after the name of Sabina, son of Tubal, their father, and they dwelt there unto this day." Okay, so this is an account. It is an account from the Apocrypha, but it does support my layout here, how it says Tubal building the city in Italy, in Tuscany. So that supports that. Now if you go to the book of Josephus, Josephus says that Tubal founded the Tubalites, who are now called Iberes. So according to Josephus, the Iberians, or the Iberes, come from Tubal. And we know this as the Iberian Peninsula, so Spain and Portugal. So we can start to see this information supporting this idea of Tubal being in this region, and Meshech in Spain. We haven't got information just yet, but I think most of the people that I've seen studying Jubilees agree with Meshech being here because of the way it says about Gadir or Cadiz. Now the interesting thing is that we do have some kingdoms on the historical record that could be connected to these two sons of Japheth. We have a kingdom called Tubal, and it's spelled with an A. That's the only difference. And scholars have connected this with the biblical Tubal. And we also have a kingdom on the historical record called the Mushki, and scholars have connected this with Meshech. So remember how we said that we should be expecting to see Tubal and Meshech living alongside each other. So we can see that the way I have it here on this map. But then we also said, we should be looking for them to maybe be entering into an alliance together. And this is where it's going to get interesting. Okay, if we go to Tubal, and I'm not going to read this all out, I just want to read this part here. It says, "During the reign of Sargon II, Tubal entered in alliance with the Mushki and Karshemish to counter Assyria. So here we see Tubal entering into alliance with the Mushki. So this could be biblical Tubal and Meshech entering into an alliance because of the the growing power of Assyria. And then if we go to the page on the Mushki, we can see it saying a similar thing. The interesting thing about this, it speaks about an eastern Mushki and a western Mushki. Maybe we can get a chance to speak about that in a different video. But it also speaks about this alliance. So it speaks about the alliance between Tubal and Meshech, but then it speaks about about Assyria being victorious. And after Assyria was victorious, it says that the Mushki re-emerged as allies of Assyria. So just to show how this could be very important because of this history with Assyria and Tubal and Meshech, and a lot depends obviously where you're going to be putting these kingdoms, because we're looking in this region here towards the west for Tubal and Meshech, and if the kingdoms really are here like we have it, then that would mean that the Assyrian Empire is involved coming towards Spain. That's why I have this arrow here. But that doesn't make sense with the traditional view. Let's go to a map of the Assyrian Empire. Okay, so here we see a map of the Assyrian Empire from what we've been presented with, and we see here the color for the greatest extent of the Assyrian Empire, and we see it does include Egypt, but it doesn't go further west than Egypt. So we can see the importance that we've been presented that these kingdoms like Tubal and the Mushki, they have to be somewhere here in the east in order for it to make sense with the Assyrian Empire. But the information so far, well, we're seeing quite a bit of information to support the idea for Tubal and Meshech to be in the west. That would bring the Assyrian Empire into this region. And if you just start thinking about those things we've been speaking about in the previous few videos, about Hercules campaigning in Libya and Spain with the pillars of Hercules, is it not like history repeating itself, that many leaders or tyrants want to emulate Hercules? And we were speaking about how could the Assyrians have always been on the continent, and then we can understand how this Assyrian Empire could reach to towards Spain, and then it would make sense with the picture that I have here with Tubal and Meshech. And there's lots of information that supports this, because if we go to Tubal, now this is the actual page on biblical Tubal. Let's read this part here. It says, Tubal, he is known to be the father of the Caucasian Iberians, ancestors of the Georgians, according to primary sources. Later, St. Jerome refashioned the Caucasian Iberia, or Georgia, into the Iberian Peninsula, Western Europe, and Isidore of Seville consolidate this mistake. So it's interesting how they're saying that this is a mistake to connect Tubal to the Iberian Peninsula in the west. So they're saying that's a mistake. But is it a mistake? That's the interesting thing. And I think I've got another part highlighted here. It says, however, Jerome, Isidore of Seville, and the Welsh historian Nennius stated another tradition that Tubal was ancestor to not only the Iberians, so the Spanish, the Iberian Peninsula, but also the Italians, i.e. the Italic tribes, and Spanish, who were also called Iberians. So we see how they also connect them to the Italians, the way I have it here, with Tubal stretching from Spain to Italy. So yeah, it could be very important for what we're speaking about. Now I'd like to just show you something that's also connected to try to support this idea of this Assyrian Empire reaching towards Spain, because I saw something very interesting. If you read this part here, it says, however, Sesostris the Egyptian, he adds, and Tirko the Ethiopian advanced as far as Europe, and Nebuchadnezzar, so I think this is supposed to say Nebuchadnezzar, so the famous or the infamous Nebuchadnezzar of the Bible, who enjoyed greater repute among the Chaldeans than Heracles, led an army even as far as the Pillars, so the Pillars of Hercules. Thus far, he says, also Tirko went. So isn't this interesting, this what this is saying here, that Nebuchadnezzar, so the king of Babylon, reaching as far as the Pillars of Hercules. So we keep seeing this this mentioning of the Pillars of Hercules now in these videos, but if you think about that again with the map of the Assyrian Empire, let's use the Assyrian Empire, because the Babylonian Empire of Nebuchadnezzar would look very similar to this, but we're told that King Nebuchadnezzar never conquered Egypt. So if he never conquered Egypt, how would he be able to campaign as far west as Spain? So we can see that that detail, it doesn't seem to fit this picture here that we've been presented with. But if we go to what we're working with, how we were saying in those videos about could ancient Nubia be the land of Shinar, so the land of Nimrod, then you can start to see how King Nebuchadnezzar, he wouldn't have to conquer Egypt in order to campaign towards the Pillars of Hercules. So I hope you're finding this video very interesting and seeing the importance of it, that if Tubal and Meshech were in this region, but these kingdoms on the historical record, like Tubal, spelt with an A, and the Mushki, are also in this region, how that it affects the history, because then it brings this history towards the west with the Assyrian Empire, and then it starts to make more sense with the picture that we're working with. And we're not going to cover too much in this video about the Hittites, but it does say here how the Hittites are involved in this, because it says Tubal emerged as a Neo-Hittite kingdom. So when the Hittite kingdom started to collapse, Tubal emerged as its own kingdom. So that suggests that the Hittites were ruling over, or at least were in an alliance with the Mushki and Tubal. So we also have to think about that we could have the Hittites in this region. So the Hittites ruling over the Iberian Peninsula and maybe also North Africa. And then that begins also to get very interesting, because we did a video a little while ago about the Hittites in Africa, and now this might start to make a little bit more sense if we start to see that maybe there's a different picture with the Hittites as well than what we've been presented with, because we're told about the Hittites being here in the region of Turkey, and we see how they've got Tubal here in Turkey as well. But what if it's not here and it's actually in the west, like we have it here? And maybe these scholars that we saw, how they said that Jerome, Isidore of Seville, and Nennius, connecting Tubal with the Iberians in Spain and also the Italians. What if that is true? It's going to have a big influence on this picture and this history as we come towards Rome. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and now we're really getting close to the Roman Empire now, so it's going to be very important in these next few videos as well. So thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.